This is Kara Gott Warner, and welcome to The Morning Cooldown, a podcast for makers on a mission to craft an amazing life where living on purpose takes center stage. You are a creator, and this is your podcast. Hey there, morning makers. This is Kara Gott Warner, and I want to welcome you to another episode of The Morning Cooldown. And today I have a really special guest. Her name is Julie Hamilton, and she is a surface pattern designer. And if you've never heard of the term surface pattern designer. Well, don't worry, because Julie's going to dive in and tell you all about the process and how she's turned this into a business. It's really exciting. Julie lives in the mountains of Whistler, British Columbia, and she moved to the Pacific Northwest after completing her university education at Queen's University in Health and Sciences. Julie actually worked as a registered massage therapist and a musculoskeletal anatomy instructor, believe it or not. And she soon discovered after, starting her work that she was the happiest in the hours that were after her workday was complete, so that she could just find time to create for the rest of the day. From sewing to painting and pattern making, she is the happiest surrounded by a big, beautiful creative mess, and I can totally relate to that. Julie is a self-taught artist, and she actually describes her creative process as artistically afflicted, to be in a wonderful state of creative chaos due to an overactive imagination that is always questioning, what if? And most of her inspiration comes from her surroundings, mountains, lakes, fields of flowers. Her sketchbook is never far from her side. She loves to create organic, whimsical, nature-inspired patterns, and she adds a modern twist to her work either through line, color, or texture. All of Julie's designs are created using various mediums, which she'll talk about more in this episode. And then what she does is to digitally manipulates them to create patterns that can be found on fabrics made into prints. In this episode, Julie will give you a taste about this process, as I said, and what the business of service design is all about. So I hope you enjoy. Now let's dive in. Thank you so much for doing this again, because it's really funny how we have a little backstory here, because we tried this about a month ago. We tried to connect, and it was my first feeble attempt at video podcasting, and so I think we'll get it right this time with and you can do your little show and tell, because I just thought this would be great to have you on the show, Julie, to just to show off, just talk about what you do as a surface designer. And I'm just really intrigued, and I've been following you for a while on Facebook, and you're really inspiring. So, and I know that the audience, I know that the Morning Cooldown audience is really, really going to enjoy this. And I know there was a couple months ago you were in Hawaii, right?
I was. That's my favorite place to work.
Is that so you've been there before, huh?
We have. It's sort of our go-to place, just because living on the Pacific Northwest here, it's the closest place to get to. Oh, it's only 5 hours away, and it's hot and tropical. So it's a big. Everyone from Whistler goes to Hawaii. It's sort of it's a go-to place.
Wow.
So I have been many times.
I've never been. Maybe one of these days. And I was kind of hoping that you would say yes, because remember we're going to do our interview.
I know. There was just so many people. We had the whole family, including grandparents and kids friends, and it's mayhem.
Mm-hmm. And I totally understand that, but I had this fantasy of like waterfalls in the background, and this, and then you would be able to show and tell your, it's all right. This will be just lovely anyway.
I do pack all of my things too. It's quite funny. I pack everything there. I'm My husband's always looking at my suitcase. When are you going to do all this? I have the paints and the paper and like all of my paper cutting stuff. So it's always pretty entertaining.
So you have a special way to travel with all that stuff, do you?
I've slowly learned I have it down.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the scissors, I somehow managed to get the scissors and all my paper cutting stuff through the border, which is always amazing.
Oh, that is amazing. Well,
The
yeah,
process, yeah.
I'm a knitter, so I've been traveling with knitting needles and scissors for years, and never once have they been confiscated because I don't know. That's good. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to fake it when you're a knitter or you're a creative person because it's like we kind of have this quirky thing going on in that craft bag, so it's
Yeah,
hard,
exactly.
it's hard to deny it. But anyway, so I want to jump in and I want to let you kind of talk a little bit about your background, a little bit about yourself and
Okay.
what you do and what led you to the path of becoming a surface designer.
Okay. It's been a long path. It's definitely a long path. Do you want me to just jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am self-taught. I did not go to school for this. I am a registered massage therapist by trade. However, when my kids were younger, I just found that and my husband was working away from home, it was just too busy. So I decided to stay at home, and I just needed an outlet. And I spent a lot of time in the park with the kids running around. So I started bringing a sketchbook, and I started drawing, and just sketching little things, more motifs versus landscapes or scenes, and just kind of fell into it that way. Started buying art supplies, and it kind of took off from there. And I guess I first sort of fell into the community, the art community, through Kelly Ray Roberts' course that I was taking,
Oh
the
yeah.
flying lessons. Met a whole group of wonderful people through there who I then connected with on Facebook. And we've sort of, there's a group of us that are still connected and so I guess inspiring each other. And from there, I've gone on to take, they've introduced me to other courses as well. So from there, I went on to take the Art and Business of Surface Pattern Design. I took all the modules for that. That's a course offered by dowhatyoulove.com. And then from there, I went on to take Lila Rogers' Make Art That Sells. And so the computer has taught me everything that I know.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
YouTube, lots of, from painting to paper cutting to sketching. And it's
Right.
great. It's all being online. I mean, I've taken some painting classes, through, like I did the Flora Bowley course. I went to Seattle to meet her. And so it's been a combination of both.
And how many years has that been that you like? How long have you been doing this now professionally? Because you are making a living doing this, right? I mean,
I,
for the most part. I
I'm
mean,
making money to buy more art supplies
well,
and take
hey,
more courses. Yeah, no, I'm definitely doing it for a living. Like I would actually call myself an artist, illustrator, surface pattern designer, what have you.
so
Yes, and I work with an agency, so a lot of my work, it's getting out there. It's definitely been a slow process, but I've worked pretty hard, and I love it. I mean, I definitely do it every single solitary day.
every day. That's
Every
amazing.
day, you got to create something. So,
So when you
so
first started working with the mediums that you currently, well, I guess not that you currently work with, but did you start with paint or pen and ink, and then did you kind of build upon that? And I guess in a lot of these courses you learn techniques, but are there any signature techniques that you kind of came up with on your own? Like, what's your favorite? Like, what do you think is your signature kind of technique?
Well, I would say more. That's also been a long process, is trying to discover who I am. I can do, it's like my show and tell. My doodling is definitely kind of where things first started out. I started putting these on Instagram and on Facebook, as you've seen, and my black and white doodles tend to they get noticed, and I think it's just the thick and thin lines, and they're pretty free. And I have books upon books of doodles.
And do you photograph them, or are you scanning these at all? I mean, I know for Facebook and Instagram, maybe you're taking a photo of it.
I scan all of these. Yeah, so I scan these, and then I put them into, I'll bring them into Illustrator and Photoshop. I'm still working on Photoshop. I'm still learning it, but I'll bring them into Illustrator, Photoshop, and then I can, with these motifs. I mean, I've made fabrics from them. They're on everything. You can do anything with them.
Yeah.
So,
So I was getting a little bit of, we're getting a little bit ahead because I wanted to ask you the process for, that,
mhm.
when you create a pattern. So when you do bring it into, let's say, Photoshop, there's a process for, let's say you take one of your pen and ink drawings and you can clean it up, and then you almost turn it into a kind of like a vector image. Is that correct?
Yeah, you bring it into if you bring it into Illustrator, you can
Mm-hmm.
live trace it, and then it becomes yes, you live trace it and it becomes a vector image.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you can add color and texture, and you can put it into pattern. You can really do anything with it. You can bring it into Photoshop from Illustrator, and then you can actually paint from there.
Mm.
There's so much. I mean, it's endless. It's
It is.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's truly amazing.
it is.
So that's yeah, so the doodles have just, I guess, sort of where I started off, which I guess I mean, I definitely started off painting as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I absolutely adore painting, and just for the messiness of it, but I haven't actually I haven't actually figured out my painting and my Illustrator Photoshop programs yet. I
Mm-hmm.
have to work on that.
It's a lot
But
of
I do,
fun.
I mean, I definitely do, like I do all of my 8x8s. So these are all painted, and then these are hand painted papers that I then cut out and they're in my doodle style. So I have lots of like that kind of, they may be a bit shiny because these were just in a show. So they're all glossed over.
And
So I've got,
what's that on, like a block, or like a
yeah,
can?
so
Oh, wow.
I do it on 8x8, just paper. So this is
Mm-hmm.
another one. So it's just art paper, Strathmore art paper. So if you don't mind wasting this, you can make mistakes and toss it. It's all good. And then from there, or cut it up and make it into something else. And then
Exactly.
from there, I glue it onto these wooden boards.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
are you using like a spray medium or adhesive, or painted, like a gel medium or anything like that to?
I do. I use gel medium. Yeah, so these are all painted, and then I use gel medium to then put them onto the painting surface, and then I actually even use gel medium to put the whole thing onto the wood. And then I just put usually a semi-gloss or a gloss on top.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just for showing purposes because they were
Mm-hmm.
up on a wall.
But
Yeah.
that's great.
Hmm.
So yeah. So anyway, I want to kind of ask you now to just to go into. I know you might backtrack a little bit, but let's just say
I'm
there was
sorry.
somebody that was interested in getting into into surface design and wanted to learn how could they go into this as a career.
Hmm.
What would they do, and just kind of what would be the process, maybe even some of the steps that you took on your path.
Well, I I would definitely suggest. I did take the Art and Business of Surface Pattern Design. So that's offered by Do What You Love. There's 4 modules, and it starts from the beginning, which is everything from figuring out who you are. Like, where do you find your inspiration? How do you get it across? Through what medium do you get it across? It's all about discovering yourself and your signature style. So, and then it goes on to deciding what market you want to work in. Like, do you want to do fabrics? Would you like to work on paper products, home decor? It covers all of that. It covers everything from going to trade shows, having your own booth, traveling, or covers working with a manufacturer, or covers working with an agent. It covers all of your options. And then there's a final segment, which is working on your portfolio. So just having, an A+ portfolio that you can then send out to either manufacturers or agents or whoever it is that you're hoping to work with.
Mm-hmm. So someone could just, type in surface design, Google that, and come up with a plethora
There's
of
so much
information.
information on it now. Like, since that course started, and that is definitely the mainstream course for
Mm-hmm.
it. There's a lot of information on surface pattern design.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
dowhatyoulove.com definitely covers. They've got lots of courses.
mm-hmm. I think I noticed that they were recently in where women create business. Have you heard of that
Yeah, I have.
magazine? So I
Mm-hmm.
think they were in there. I mean, I came across you
Mm-hmm.
in Artful Blogging. That's where I first
Right.
discovered you. And then,
Right.
I started following on Facebook. And how did you get into Artful Blogging? Did you just submit your, like, is there a funny story behind that, or you?
It was on my to-do list. Like I started blogging a number of years ago because right from the very beginning I decided I like blogging, I like writing, and I like sharing, and I love finding inspiration. So I thought, well, if I can inspire anyone else, I might as well try. So I started blogging, and I've been very consistent about this whole process, from the courses, the painting courses I've taken. I've put all of my bad work up online, everything. And actually, they discovered me. It was so bizarre. I had meant
Oh,
to
wow.
apply. I kept saying, okay, I'd like to apply for this, but I never felt that my blog was actually where I wanted it to be. It's still not where I want it to be. There's always things that I'd like to make it perfect. Anyway, they emailed me last year and just said, hey, we'd like you to feature your images and your blog in the magazine. I was overjoyed. So it worked out well. And actually, most of the images they used are images from Hawaii. So I was quite obsessed with seeds and pods, and they took a lot of those images and the artwork that I had created, and that was what they used for the Artful Blogging feature. It was in summer 2014.
Wow. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was something that struck me of, how you find a lot of inspiration from nature and, obviously flowers, but seeds and fruit and berries. And actually, when you were in Hawaii this past time, that was a lot of that was on your website, on your Facebook feed.
Yeah. It's kind of who I am. I love that. I mean, I live in the mountains, and then the other half of the time I spend in Hawaii. So it's just so totally different. But I'm definitely inspired by that. It's such an easy, they're fun, free forms that you can draw, and you can have fun with them. You can, they don't have to be realistic.
I had a question about the pattern design
Yes.
process. One other thing is, so when you're designing a repeat, for example, so a lot of the designs end up on fabrics or, I don't know, wallpaper maybe. Is there a way to let's say you come up with, I don't know, your 8.5 by 11 or whatever the size of this repeat area is. Do you need to? Is there a formula for figuring out how that repeats, or is it like, here's the creation and then you sell it and you leave the repeat process or how it's going to be reproduced up? You leave that up to the fabric
To the
makers.
manufacturer. Well, you can go either route. I mean, yes, I do know how to make repeats, so I can actually put my work into a pattern, but you don't necessarily have to. If a licensor, like if they see your work and they love a motif that you've done or a painting, and they'd like to make that into fabric, there's always an in-house designer who can put it into pattern for you. So it's not necessary to know how to put things in pattern. It definitely helps. Definitely helps. And you can do that, once again, you can do that in Illustrator or Photoshop. So you can do it with everything from a very graphic look to a very painterly look, and it can go into a pattern.
So there are no patterns for creating the repeat, or is that something that you kind of replicate or figure that out in a program like Illustrator?
You figure that there's like templates that you can use through Illustrator and Photoshop, and they can put your work into pattern immediately. It's just learning how to use the programs.
So, and you mentioned an agent, like if someone were to, pursue this. So how does that work? I mean, I guess, explain.
Well, I decided to go with an agent. I'm with a Fresh Bunch, and I decided to go with them because it's a big process. So you create a lot of artwork, then you have to get your artwork out there. You have to find out who's manufacturing what you want your artwork on. So there's just a lot of steps, and those steps, marketing yourself, all of that takes away from your creative time. So you have to I just had to make a decision. Do I want to create more, or do I want to actually really work hard on putting myself out there and discovering, what I want to go to, and then making those presentations. So I decided to go the route of the agent. So because they just have so many more contacts than I do, and they obviously they have a good eye, and that would look great on gift cards, or that would look great on wrapping paper or fabric. So they kind of make those decisions. But I just find that they can get your work out there faster, wider than say I can. right?
So do they do the marketing and, Facebook?
Yeah,
They do all that kind of stuff to help get your
they
work out. That's
they do
really
everything.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're at Surtex this weekend. Our big industry show is this weekend, so they're at Surtex and meeting with lots of different people, and yeah, and lots of opportunities are coming from it, which is great.
Then you're home
And
and
so
you don't have to go. You don't have to pound the
I
pavement, so to speak.
would like to be in New York City, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm here. It's prom weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's fine. But yeah, it's just a choice that you have to make for yourself. I mean, obviously, you share the percentage of what you make with your agent, but that's just life.
Exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
job for everyone. It's a
Uh-huh.
job for everyone. So,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
what does a typical day look like for you, Julie, in your studio?
Well, I get up very early in the morning. I try to create. I grab my coffee, and I do like to do a lot of sketching in the morning. So usually just black and white and whatever it may be. Yeah, sometimes cruise through Pinterest to get inspiration for things. Any number of photos that I've taken, and just I kind of definitely try to get thoughts down on paper, kind of like my morning pages. So just before kids get up and then get them off to school, and then I do work in the morning. That's sort of my creative time. So sort of between 8 and 12. I try to stay away from social media. I try to stay away from my computer, Facebook, all of the rest, and just create during that time. That's when I'm most productive. Take a break in the afternoon. I usually exercise, and then in the afternoon I tend to do more of the tedious work, the not as much fun work, like working on revisions for different projects that I have going on, or yeah, doing that kind of work. More of the mundane stuff. The fun stuff's in the morning.
Yeah.
I figure you only have so much creativity in you, right? So you got to use it wisely. Use your time wisely.
Exactly. So that was
Yeah.
my next question, of course, because this is the morning cool down podcast, right? So it's asking you about your morning routine. So you already kind of explained that, and so your ritual. It sounds like you're focusing on the kind of getting in touch with yourself first. Doing the doodling and because that's
Yeah.
something
New ideas.
I have to say for myself, and new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
because I like to think of the morning as it's a time, it's like a conduit for creativity, I like to say.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because it's like a clean slate and lots of ideas come at that time. And I'm personally guilty. I mean, what you're saying is inspiring. And other friends have also said, I just focus on ideas and, getting in touch with the divine or whatever it is, because, I try to get work done sometimes. I'm guilty of that. And I never feel like I have closure for that anyway, and I'm trying to fit it all in. So, I think that you kind of drove that home, that idea of really just focusing on those fresh things, the ideas.
Fresh and new. Yeah.
Exactly.
Trying new things. I find that in the morning, well, I mean, whatever it works for you. A lot of people work very well at night, but just sort of like the art journaling or the painting and not pushing anything. Like I find I start, usually you just have to start. And if it's working with drawing, I'll draw. If it's not working, I'll go on to paint or collage. Like I kind of work through things, and you have to base a lot of it on your mood. And you can't push things or
That's a
kind
really
of.
good point about the mood thing, because I do that thing where I plan the night before, and then the next morning I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so
No,
I'm going against the grain of what my heart is telling me, because I'm like you, or I might want to knit, or I also collage,
Yeah.
and I've been doing
Right.
visual journals for decades, actually.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's like, well, why not be spontaneous? That's probably like the right state of mind that I should be in, just for that one little pocket of time during the day that I can be that way, is to just
Right.
stop planning, or just say it doesn't matter, just go with what your heart is telling you, and that's
Yeah.
it. And then the rest of the day you have to follow the rules, and you have to jump on
You
the
do.
you know what I mean. So
I work at night. Like I find that sometimes I'll find myself at 11 o'clock frantically going, okay, I have to actually get this work done. Like you just, you can't limit yourself then from an 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock workday. Sometimes you do have to work into the evening to actually get the real work done.
yeah, I
But
find that,
you've
yeah.
got to be accepting of that.
I think, yeah, that's really a good point. The acceptance part, because your mood changes, or you might feel tired one night, but then you have one night, like you said, you're up all night long, and you're like, I better get to bed, or I better, jump on this thing. And yeah, I find that for myself, where, the night times lately, I'm going through this cycle of like wanting to stay up later, even
Hmm.
though I call myself a morning person, getting up really early, and I do.
Hmm.
But it's like you go with what feels right.
Yeah.
So, what time do you get up? Just curious. I mean, are you like a really early morning person? Like, is it the kind of time where people say you're crazy,
Oh,
or
no, 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 no.
no?
I usually 6 o'clock. Yeah, or
Oh,
maybe that is crazy. Is that
no,
crazy? No,
no,
I
no.
don't think so. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I like waking up early.
Hmm. And I think,
And I like the house to myself at that time, and it's quiet. And unfortunately, my husband also likes getting up at 6 a.m. And so he's also up doing his thing, but that's fine.
yeah. So if
Good.
you have a space to go to in your little corner of the world, then it probably all works out.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. So okay. So I want to just change gears a little bit and ask you some the questions that I like to ask guests on the show. And is there
Okay.
something quirky about yourself that
Mm.
keeps you productive? I asked you this last time when we
Oh,
tried to do.
I, I,
We tried this.
I'm totally quirky. Yeah, I'm
Everything's
very quirky.
quirky, right?
It is all quirky. And I always think it's a funny question. I find that my quirkiness is, I call them, it's the whole artistically afflicted. So that's what the name of my blog is. And I started that. It's, now I can't even remember what my tagline for it is. This beautiful state of creative chaos, always, that's always questioning what if. So, what if I rip this up and paste it onto here? Or what if I paint this and then put a totally different medium on? So just really experimenting. So always learning, trying new things. But the artistically afflicted, I guess that's sort of my quirkiness. It's that of just jumping from thing to thing. So from doodling to painting paper, to collaging, to paper cutting, to just trying everything
Yeah,
and
because I
hoping
remember
that something
last.
works.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. What was that
Oh, I just
last?
said and hoping that something works.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
Because
doesn't always.
I remember the last time we spoke, you actually said it was more like you go with the moment.
Yeah,
You go with
yeah,
the
yeah.
moment, and that's a really beautiful thing that you're able to just, most people, like I said earlier, maybe that's not true. Maybe we all can, but we think, oh no, I must plan. I must, make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. But,
Right.
you as a creative person, and you are, that's how you make your living.
Hmm.
And if how can you, it's hard to be creative if you're forcing it. You can't necessarily bring out your best
Exactly.
work. So if your
Right.
quirkiness is just to, you know, live on purpose and say, what is the moment telling me? Then,
Hmm.
let's call that quirky.
Yeah,
But
that's. I think that's quirky.
yeah.
There's some other weird, quirky things, I'm sure.
Well, if you think of them, you can just jump right in. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised about my children in the background or my husband. They have all sorts of
Oh
things.
yeah, yeah. And usually
They
my
can poke
husband
me
likes
at
to jump in sometimes and interrupt or make a loud noise, but that hasn't happened yet. I don't think it will. So we're safe. We're good.
That's
Um,
good.
so okay, here's another question. So
Okay.
what is your favorite productivity tool or app?
Oh, and we'd spoken about that before as well, the Pomodoro, and I
Oh,
brought that up before. That's working. That's really working for me. Do I have to explain what that? Oh, I guess I should explain what that is.
sure. Why not?
Sorry. Um, I If you go online, you can search up pomodoro.com and they'll tell you exactly how to do it properly. I've sort of adopted it to myself. I just work in 25-minute segments. So I start a project, I focus on it, I concentrate, work on whatever it is for 25 minutes. I either love it or I hate it. If I love it, I take my 5-minute break or 10-minute break, and then I'll work on another segment of 25 minutes on the same project. If it's not working for me, I'm not feeling the love, not loving what I'm doing, or it's being forced, as you say, then I start a new project in the next segment. right? So do you understand? And
Yes, I
then during
love
the time,
that.
because I said there's no computers, there's no going to Facebook. It's hard working from home. It's very easy to be distracted from, going to the kitchen to get something to eat to going, where the computer is and going onto Facebook or Instagram. So just really trying to block off all of that, phone calls, everything. And working in those segments has been very productive. And also I just find that there's always things that I don't want to do, be it there's projects that you're doing revisions and you don't know what colors to use or how you're going to go about doing it. I find that it's less daunting to start a project knowing that you only have to work on it for 25 minutes. Okay, so just do it, get it done, and as I said, usually you get into it.
I'm a really big fan of the Pomodoro Technique because I think of it. I think I kind of recently I came to this conclusion that it's almost like the steps of a staircase. I know that sounds like a really weird analogy, or like, well, they're like little, buckets in time where you've got, all you got to do is worry about this particular task, and nothing else matters. And that's kind of, that gives me comfort. And I really, so it's like I'm going up there, I'm on this step, and this is all I need to worry about. And then I'm going to go up the next step, so it makes things, it takes that overwhelm out of a situation. But I really like how you explained how this is great, because a lot of the times I might jump into working on a creative project and you look at that white page and you're just like, oh, this has to be, like, what is it going to be? And you're a little bit, might maybe be a little, stunted or a little bit hesitant, I should say, until you're sure, instead of just diving in. It's like, why not just using the Pomodoro, and you're giving yourself the out by saying, if this doesn't work, I can toss it, or, I'm a hoarder, so I'd probably keep it and cut it up.
Keep it and use it again. Use it for something else, whatever it may be.
So there's no pressure. There's no pressure when you do it that way. So then you find you come up with these really interesting mistakes, and that's something I notice as I'm an editor of a knitting magazine. So I get a lot of people writing in, and they're saying, I don't know how to do this. They're really afraid to start. But you find in probably in every creative medium, when you're designing, when you jump in and you just start working, these mistakes, the pleasant surprise mistakes, the great mistakes happen. You're like, wow, like that's pretty cool. So the mistakes are awesome. Like, you have to make mistakes. You'll find these things that you never could ever discover without making a mistake.
Yeah. So good. I love mistakes, especially with painting. You always find great things. It's like, oh, how did that happen? And then you have to remember how you made that mistake.
This is true.
That's been a problem at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always forget, or I'll say, oh, I'll remember, but I don't. Especially, and with knitting, that's hard because it's technical and whatever.
Right.
But
the recipe.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, because I was going to ask you to share, I'll just let you think about it and let it marinate. But a little piece of inspiration, like a quote or a thought, whatever it is.
Right.
But before that,
I shared a really good one last time. Do you remember what it was?
No, oh my gosh, I should have briefed you on that.
I know.
But you can
exactly.
think about it. But I wanted to ask you if you want to share a little bit more, anything current that you're working on, and do kind of a little, retrospective of like Julie Hamilton, the world of Julie Hamilton, and Artistically Afflicted.
Yeah, I know. What do I have? I'm trying to think what I have new going on. Well, okay, I do have some new here. Now I'm winging it here. I am working on some new holiday paper cuts that are going to say greetings. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, that's fun. And then I'm definitely doing more art journaling. So this is just a big mess of different mediums. I've discovered gelatos, which are some really.
Can you hold that up again? Is it? Is that watercolor? Like, they're the pencils that you can paint?
Yeah. There's a little bit of watercolor. There's some gelatos, which give this really nice texture. There's some markers. There's more markers. Got a little bit of everything going on in here. But it is watercolor paint.
What is
a little bit more.
What is a gelato?
There are these little. I can see one over there. I can go get it. They're just these little small pastels. And here, actually, I will
go get it. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
These are very exciting. Actually, these are very exciting. I actually had these delivered when I was in Hawaii. I was quite, so here you go. There, see all the different colors?
And are they oil-based? Or
No, they're water.
Okay, watercolor. That's right. You just said
I was actually just going to see how they described them. So they're just like little pastels, and then you can either, so you put them on paper and they leave a beautiful texture, and then you can add water, or you can smudge them and use a sponge. They're very vibrant, water-based. What do they, I'm trying to think, how do they describe them though? They just call them gelatos.
And is it gelatos.com or something?
Yeah. Well, they're by. Sorry.
Put that in the show notes.
Faber Castell.
Oh, that's easy to look up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gelatos. Gelatos. Water-based, water-soluble medium. That's it. They're great. They're fun. They're colorful. Great colors. Lots of fun. So I've been playing with those and art journaling, and then adding ink and paper on top. Then I've been doing a lot of little houses. I'm obsessed with houses.
Oh, beautiful.
And these are painted papers. And painted papers, some of the shapes I use, a little bit of paint. Still trying to figure out what to do with this. Working it. Haven't actually discovered it. But these are just art journaling, right? So, I mean, they're, once again, on paper, in an art journal. No big deal. If you make a mistake, I've got lots of them, actually. Lots of unfinished artwork is what you would call it. I just haven't figured out where I'm going with it yet. I will. It'll come. That's the beauty, once again, of just working on I've got so much stuff. See, more unfinished. It's all unfinished.
But like you said, that's the beauty of it. You go in and you kind of see something you didn't see before. You get excited and you, and it's in your book. It's a different kind of level of, like, it's okay. It's not like you've got these scattered throughout the house and you just
I know where everything is, but it's just,
and it's so nice.
It's all in the journal.
And it's so nice to have it there contained in the journal, and it becomes this nice thing to kind of flip through, and
and it's all over. It's really all over the house. I mean, my studio is actually in our main living area, so people come in and they look at things and they give you ideas, and it's just always there. So I mean, I come up with an idea when I'm cooking, and I can just go to my studio and get it down, and it's fun. People are always offering suggestions.
Are they?
It's always fun. Yeah, it's always fun when people come into our house. It's like, oh, you should try this. You should do this. My dad always wants me to put a red barn on everything. Anyway,
that's interesting. A red barn.
Well, it's one of his things. So so I have lots of different projects, but mostly working on really trying to get my painted papers and collage work going, and into characters and different, getting it into Photoshop, and just trying to get that program going. Sort of my focus right now.
That's great.
My fun work.
Fun work.
Yeah. Is it work or is it play?
So now let's go back to that question.
Oh, yeah.
Share a parting piece of inspiration. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a quote, but maybe it's inspiration for someone who, they want to take a chance on a dream. They want to focus on, their creative life and making that, all encompassing. Like you. I mean, this is.
Well, I think you have to. Two ways I see going about it is you have to put yourself out there. You definitely have to put your artwork out there. There's always someone who's going to like it. Don't be worried about, don't be worried about that. People are always there. Everyone's supportive. So get your work out there, either through Facebook, Instagram. Through there, build your community, right? You can go on to Instagram, and has been for a long time, and build your community around you. So everything has a hashtag. So you can go onto the hashtag, and you can meet other people who do the same thing that you do. And from there, you connect with those people, comment on their work, and hopefully build up a bit of a relationship. Reach out to people, ask them their, advice. People are always, I find that people are just extremely helpful and supportive of one another. So I think it's building your community, getting your work out there. And, I'm amazed actually at, some of the things that you do put out there and how they're responded to. I mean, I've got artwork that I created, I had a piece that I created 2 years ago that was actually 2 years ago, that was in Artful Blogging. It wasn't a finished piece. Finally finished it, and it just got licensed, 2 months ago.
Wow.
So it's just a long process, and you have to, one of the sayings, or one of the little quotes I have written up, is practice, patience, perseverance.
Oh, that's a good one.
So just really having the patience, constantly learning, just keep working your art every single solitary day, and know that it's going to work eventually. You can, whatever it is, you can even take a little part of whatever you're working on and just keep expanding, as you saw that I was doing in my journal, right? And then finally something will come of it.
Exactly. And it's all a building block, isn't it?
That was very long-winded.
No, that was perfect.
Sorry.
That was really perfect. And I think not being afraid to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of creatives are scared and feel like they're not good enough, and you don't know. You really, you have to just take those creative risks, and take a risk every day. I mean, do something scary every day, and something scary might be just putting, one new piece of art or a drawing out there. So that's, that's it. That's not that crazy, right? That's not that risky.
No.
So how can the listeners find out more about you?
You can find me on my blog. I still blog almost weekly at artisticallyafflicted.com. That's probably the easiest place. And from there, I have all my links to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. As I just said, Instagram is my favorite. I'm pretty much on Instagram every day, putting myself out there, putting my work on there. So, and that's just probably my favorite community right now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Julie. This was awesome.
Good. Thank you. It's been fun. Again, I enjoy it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Julie Hamilton. I had a lot of fun talking to her. It was really exciting for her to be on video. This was my very first video. And another really exciting fact that I did not mention at the beginning of this episode is that this is episode 75. So I'm so excited. This is like a milestone episode. And it's just a coincidence that I turned it into video. I thought about this a while ago, and I never really thought that that she'd be the 75th the episode. So it's really pretty exciting. So just, take a look out, the show notes will kind of give you some information where you can go watch the video. So you can see Julie giving us all a little bit of show and tell. And I'm going to work on more of these down the road because it's a lot of fun. It is more work, because I've got the audio piece and then also the video piece. But, I think it's really worthwhile, especially when it comes to showing off, artwork and things that are visual. I mean, you really need to have that. And so I am trying to perfect this more and more because I do have a new podcast coming out. So I'll just kind of give you a little info about that for any of you knitters out there, or I should even say wannabe knitters, because it's pretty cool. It's called the Power Pearls Podcast, and you can learn more about it by going to powerpearlspodcast.com. And if you're listening to this in June 2015, you can sign up for the pre-show list. So it's a little VIP list that I have, so you can get updates about when the first show goes live. And also, there'll be other little tidbits along the way that I'm going to share, some good information, knitterly information. So go on ahead and check that out. And if you want to listen to this on iTunes, you can head on over there. And also, please, this is getting this out to more people is, so important to me. And so getting those 5-star reviews and ratings really do help the show so it can reach more people. And I know that sometimes that can be hard because you're running, you're walking, you're in the car listening to this episode. So it might be difficult, but if you remember, hey, maybe you can put a little sticky note on your computer or something so you can remember to head on over to iTunes and leave me a little review, just letting me know what you like about the show, maybe what the kind of stuff you want to see in a future show, because that would be really helpful. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next time.